Hello and welcome to Study with Sudhir. My name is T.S. Sudhir and I hope all of you are doing absolutely 100% great. This is part 3 of the chapter dealing with gender, religion and caste. We have done gender in video 1, religion in video 2 and caste will be in this video number 3. And we do believe that we have added a lot of value in those 2 videos. So please do have a look at it. As far as civics and history, social science is concerned, you can trust to be with SWS. So let's get started. Caste is an equally important component as far as politics in India is concerned, and there is a reason for doing that. And I can tell this to you from experience because I've covered close to some 25-30 elections in South India, both Lok Sabha and Assembly in the last 30 years. And I have done lots of news stories and documentaries on caste. So I have a very thorough understanding of how caste operates as far as politics in India is concerned. So what is caste and politics? Let's look at the origin. शुरुआत कैसे हुई? Social inequality and division of labor. Let me talk about the second part first. Division of labor, especially in the Hindu religion, was like the Kshatriya will rule, the Brahmins will take care of other kind of affairs, and they would be in positions of authority, either in bureaucracy or to take part care of the religious rituals, etc. Then you had the Vaishyas who would take care of the business, the trading community, the people who would handle money. And then you had the Shudras who would take care of the cleaning up work and stuff like that. Okay, so there is some kind of a division of labor. This division of labor translated into some kind of a social hierarchy. That is hierarchy. What exactly is meant by the term hierarchy? A caste hierarchy is like a ladder-like formation, right? CD ki tarah, like a ladder-like formation in which all the caste groups are placed from highest to lowest. That this is an upper caste, this is a lower caste, right? On the basis of what they do, the profession, the labor, and as a result of, because of that, like the education was available to the Brahmins, it was not available to the Shudras, right? So this led to social inequality. Inequality because people were not considered equal to each other. That person A is not seen to be equal to person B. Okay. And that was used to be a problem. Things have, of course, changed a lot in India in the 21st century, though there are still pockets where this has happened. I can tell you of this story that I did from Mehbubnagar district of Telangana in the year 2003 or 4, 3 I think, where there is a 2-tumbler system, and this was in vogue for many years. Why a 2-tumbler system? So if at the chai shop, if at the tea shop, if an upper caste person comes and he wants to be served tea, he orders a cup of tea, he would be given cups from a particular group. If a lower caste, so-called lower caste person comes and asks for tea, he would be given from a different cup, right? So there was what was called the 2-glass system, which kind of, it is very insulting that, that someone else will not even touch the glass that I drink tea from. Right now, how essentially is India different when it comes to caste? There is the hereditary occupational division, which I just spoke about. The Kshatriyas, the Brahmins, the Shudras, the Vaishyas was sanctioned by rituals. It almost had some kind of a religious sanction that this is how Hinduism is, that this is how this thing, the entire system will be done. It's not like it's only in Hinduism. It is there in other religions also, where there is a caste hierarchy based, and it has some kind of religious sanction, religious okay. Members of the same caste group formed a social community that practiced same or similar occupation. For instance, if there is a Vaishya community, in fact, you go to any city, even today, you would find a Vaishya association. You would find a Brahmin association, because people want to protect their own caste identity. They want to protect their own caste identity, and it becomes a pressure group, a political pressure group, about which I will talk about in a while from now. People within India in India would marry within the caste, same caste group. For instance, if I stay in Telangana, a Reddy would marry within the Reddy community. A Rao would marry within the Rao community. Raos are also Brahmins and Kapus and different kind of this thing. A Yadav in Bihar or UP will marry another Yadav, right? A Srivastava will marry a Srivastava, within the same kind of community. So there is a sense of, that we should marry and continue our next generation within the same community. You also avoided eating with members of other caste groups, that I will not go and eat at the house of someone else who belongs to a different caste from mine. These are the kind of divisions that India has lived with for several decades and centuries. So the caste system, essentially, please understand it. Question and answers we will do in separate videos. Not a problem. I will do many question and answers so that your all kinds of answers, 1 mark or 3 marks, everything will be taken care of. Okay, guarantee. The caste system was based on what? It was based on exclusion and discrimination. Exclusion and discrimination. मतलब क्या हुआ? Exclude मतलब इसको बाहर करो. You remove this person and you discriminate. इसके खिलाफ एक तरह से इसको you treat him as different and don't allow him to mix within us. Okay, and these were called outcast. Outcast. Out on the basis of caste, right? So they were called the outcast groups, and they were subjected to the practice of untouchability. That you, an so-called upper caste person, will not touch a person from apparently the lower class. Otherwise, it would be seen as adharma. Okay. Now, these are all divisions which have been created by men themselves, by people themselves, but they have given it a religious kind of a sanction. The moment I say adharma, you are bringing in dharma into it, right? There were reformers, like, of course, our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, who spoke about untouchability, against untouchability. Jyotiba Phule, right? Social reformer from Maharashtra, who formed the Satyashodhak Samaj, right? He was at the forefront against untouchability. B.R. Ambedkar, who wrote our constitution, again, someone who has always spoken against untouchability because he was himself a sufferer as a result of that. Periyar from Tamil Nadu, who has spoken very strongly against the Brahminical class, right? So what is now? Have things changed, you would ask? Have things changed over the years? I spoke about the two-glass system. Now there is no two-glass system in most parts of Telangana, most parts of Andhra Pradesh. There could be some pockets, but largely the two-glass system is not in vogue. Also because, let me tell you, the real reason also was because plastic cups started being used for everyone. So everyone will drink in a plastic cup and throw it away, right? So that also contributed to that. People are no longer having the glass tumbler. But what is really breaking down caste hierarchy in a larger sense? One, economic development. Okay, the economic development. There is literacy. I am more literate than my previous generation. Okay, I am more educated. I understand that these are stupid divisions which have been created by our forefathers, for whatever reason. And it doesn't make sense now. Someone from a so-called lower caste, which itself is very insulting, can be the IIT JEE topper, can be the topper of NEET. In what way he or she is in any way inferior to any one of us? Occupational mobility, that you move from place to place. You move together in the same train compartment. When you move around in a train compartment, do you check what is the caste of the other 7 passengers in your same compartment? Obviously not. Do you care? No. Don't you order food and eat from the railway plate that is served to you? Do you check the caste of the person who has served you food? Do you check the caste of the person who has prepared that food? No, obviously you do not, right? So there is occupational mobility. You move from place to place and these kind of barriers break down. When you get into a taxi, do you check the caste of the person who is driving that taxi? Obviously not, right? Weakening of power structures in villages, because this upper caste earlier used to hold the power in villages. That also started weakening over a period of time. The constitution specifically prohibits caste-based discrimination, that you cannot have caste-based discrimination. On the basis of caste, you cannot say that I will deny him a job. or I will not give this project to him, or I will not do business with him. You cannot do that. You may have other reasons that he is not qualified enough, but you cannot do so on the basis of caste. Okay. Now, let's talk about caste and the India of the 21st century. Okay. One, let's be very realistic about this. Caste has not disappeared from 21st century India, and there are reasons for that, and I will talk about it in great detail. Okay. Even today, intercaste marriages are frowned upon. Let me talk about my documentary, which I did from Tamil Nadu. There was this case of a girl from an OBC community. Mind you, they are not the traditional upper caste. They're not the Brahmins, so to say. They are from the Gounder. In Tamil Nadu, you have the Gounder, the Tevar, the Vanyar community, who are known as the most backward caste. But over a period of time, what has happened is that these MBCs have become very powerful. And when you talk about oppression of the SCs or the Dalits now, it is these MBCs who do that, not the Brahmins. The Brahmins in any case are less than 3% in Tamil Nadu. So they don't do that. But it is these Gounders, the Vanyars and the Tevas who do this oppression on the SCs. So there was this case of a girl. I forget the name of the girl. And her husband, who was a Dalit, an SC, he was killed by members of the girl's family who were not very happy that she had gone ahead and married someone from a scheduled caste. I was doing a documentary subsequent to that killing. It happened near Tirupur in Tamil Nadu. It's near Coimbatore. This I'm talking about 2015-16. So I met this guy who belonged to a caste group. And he says, I don't this thing. We believe that, our girls should marry only within our community. We should not give them in marriage to the. So that whole thing of intercaste marriage, that opposition to intercaste marriage, and that guy was an educated man, huge bungalow he had, right? We sat on his veranda and we did the interview. So what I'm trying to say is that intercaste marriage, the opposition to intercaste marriage is very, very real. I attended an intercaste marriage, right, to see how the whole dynamics work. And there the people are also very scared because they do not know if the girl's parents or the boy's parents would accept that he or she has married someone from another caste. So another point is access to education is still a big issue. Whether you will have access to educational facilities in many villages and towns. And caste finally is linked to economic status, that, it depends on if you are from a particular caste, only then you will have access, and thereby you can improve as far as your economic status is concerned. So those castes which are prohibited from access to education over a period of time, over decades, have lagged behind, which is why you have reservation now. Reservation is what? Many people from the so-called upper caste protest, reservation, or they get this advantage. We are actually making up for what our forefathers did, right? Every Indian has the right to come up to a particular level. So for that, if you need reservation to bring them to a particular level, there can be different opinions on this, on what is the mode and whether there should be a cutoff date or a cutoff within generation. It cannot be like, families after families keep on taking advantage of reservation. There can be those kind of arguments. But largely, in principle, you need this reservation so that everyone can come up to a particular level. Someone from an SC community who has not had access to good education should also be able to go and get a seat in an IIT and compete with the others, right? Because of lack of access to education, there has been disproportionate presence of upper caste among the urban middle class. Okay. The upper middle class, many of the organizations you see, they would be stuffed with people from the upper caste, because the others have not come. So what happens is that there is lack of perspective. You think this is India, whereas there is a larger India which is not having access to many of the amenities that you have, many of the facilities that you have had, to education, to jobs, to all other kind of facilities. Understood? Look at these two cartoons. I deliberately put these two cartoons. They are not in your book. Okay. The first one on the left-hand side, to Mother India, a politician is asking, what is your surname? The surname obsession is very deep in our country, because which is why many people even drop the surname, because from a surname you can immediately, oh, Sharma, oh, he's a Brahmin. Pandey, he's a Brahmin. Yadav, he's an OBC. So there are different kind of, the moment you say a particular surname, you know what caste he or she belongs to. The right hand side, which is something which we use a lot in our political columns. In India, we are not casting our vote. We vote our caste. We vote for a particular person because he belongs to my community. That's an unfortunate reality. That we vote for our caste. We vote our caste. We don't cast our vote. It's a play on words, but it tells you a particular story. Now, as far as caste in politics is concerned, political parties, where does this whole caste system comes from? Political parties choose candidates keeping in mind the caste composition. So in this particular constituency, if there are more people belonging to this caste, I will field a candidate of this caste so that I get the votes of this caste community. I'll give you an example. If in a particular constituency, say in Andhra Pradesh, there are a larger number of Reddy community, Reddy, which is an upper caste community, forward community, politically powerful community. I will field a Reddy candidate so that I get all the Reddy votes. Here, if I end up fielding a candidate belonging to, let's say, another community, the same Reddy community may turn against me, saying that, why couldn't you find somebody from our community to field? So we will not vote for you. We will vote for another party which has fielded a Reddy community. So that is the catch. Political parties make appeals based on caste sentiment, that we have fielded a Reddy candidate. Vote for your Reddy brother and make him win. So everything comes down to caste. The caste groups also find favor with political parties. I mentioned about Brahmin Association, Vaishya Association, Scheduled Caste Association. There are all kinds of associations. Now, these associations are essentially vote banks. Vote bank politics, we call it. Vote banks means they are like a bank. You tap into them. You may probably announce some freebies for them that, if we come to power, we will give everyone a loan of 20,000 rupees. Every family will get a loan of 20,000 rupees. Or we'll give an unemployment allowance of 5,000 rupees every month to every member of this community if we come to power. So you do this kind of quid pro quo, barter system, that vote hum denge, humko kya milega. So this caste-based associations do this kind of, there's a word used in Mumbai, no? I don't know if it's the right word, huh? I may be wrong, but pardon me if I'm wrong. Mandwali bolte hain. Okay, Mandwali karte hain. They do this kind of barter system and do this kind of business with political parties. And I know this because I've covered so much of it. I know exactly what a dirty system it is. Votes are sold. कि मैं तुमको इस community के 600 वोट लेके आऊंगा, मेरे को इतने पैसे दो, मेरे को ये होना. In that case, I will get you 600 confirmed votes of my community. So there are these community leaders. There are these caste-based leaders, right? There's effort-based. It can happen on a religious basis also. There's effort by political parties to mobilize an entire community to vote for them. Same way. What happens as a result? Now, this is again really interesting. This is not in your book. I'm telling this to you from my own experience. There's counter-mobilization by other castes. Suppose a political party fields a particular candidate. Okay. The other communities who are also there. Now, for example, let's assume there is 40% population, electoral population votes of a particular community in a constituency. Let's say caste A. Okay. Now, caste A, if you field, he may be a threat to all the other groups. So there is, say, 10% of caste B, 10% of caste C, 10% of caste D, altogether B, C, D, E, F, G are 60%. Understood? What can happen, and this has also happened in politics, there is counter mobilization. They will all come together and say, किसी भी तरह से इसको हराना है. There may be some other candidate among these B, C, D, E, F, G, right? They may make that candidate win, but they will make this a defeat. So it can also lead to counter mobilization. So many times people say, oh, 40% vote, let's field that candidate, that caste candidate, we will win. But sometimes it also leads to counter mobilization. I'm just telling you an interesting aspect of politics, okay, from what I know. Now, you may think, hey, does that mean that all elections are about caste? Theoretically, no. And this is what has happened. I know the latest Uttar Pradesh elections, for instance, all journalists from Uttar Pradesh were saying, oh, Jat community is there in this thing. They were very unhappy with the BJP. So they will all vote en masse against the BJP. The BJP actually got more seats in that belt, the Western UP belt. Oh, this is entirely Muslim. They will all vote against thing. The BJP did well. So if you do well as a political party, you may actually get votes. So it does not really, this caste mobilization is also overhyped in many cases, especially when the party is able to show that we are doing work for you, irrespective of caste or religion. So in theory, there is no parliamentary constituency in the country that has a clear majority of only one caste. There is no constituency which says only, 90% belonging to only one caste. There will always be people from other castes who are also enrolled as voters. Despite attempts at vote bank politics, no party wins all the votes of a particular caste in an election. It kabhi nahi hota hai, I mean, I may be very popular, but does it mean I'll get all the 40% votes? I may get 30% votes. 10% may go to somebody else. So it never happens. So that whole vote bank, वो बैंक का फिक्स्ड डिपॉजिट पूरे मेरे हाथ में नहीं आता है, इंटरेस्ट भी कटता है. Many candidates from the same caste are fielded by different parties. So if there is 40% this thing, so I will not want the entire 40% or at least majority of that 40% to go to that party. So I will also field a candidate from the same caste so that I can split that vote. Okay, and then I'll try to get votes from the other community. All these things are part of how politicians operate. Politicians, according to me, are the most cunning, clever, and intelligent people. Okay. Anti-incumbency factor. Agar aisa hota, then no politician will lose his or her election. But there is a fact that MPs and MLAs, ministers, etc. lose their election, which means castes are not frozen in their political preferences. Frozen matlab, they do not say कि हमने 5 साल पहले इसको वोट किया था, हम जिंदगी भर इसके लिए वोट करते रहेंगे. They do not decide that. They vote according to what he or she has done in the last 5 years. Okay. Now, how politics influences caste. Caste groups try to become bigger by incorporating subcastes. There are, even within a caste, there are small castes. Like, for instance, in Andhra Pradesh, within the SC community, there is a Mala community, there's a Madiga community. Within the Muslim community, you have the Shias and the Sunnis, right? So you have different kind of, even within the Sikh community, you have the so-called lower caste Sikhs, like when Charanjit Singh Channi was made the Chief Minister of Punjab by the Congress just before the elections. They touted him that the first Dalit Sikh Chief Minister, right? So if there is an attempt to kind of play the caste card, right? And castes also try to incorporate the subcastes, the different subcastes. There is a coalition of caste groups that, different caste groups decide to come together so that the more strength, the bargaining power will be that much more. You can bargain better with the political party. There are new kinds of caste group, the backward and the forward caste groups, the backward classes, the forward classes. As a result, what happens is that there is better access to decision making for Dalits and OBCs. You can put pressure that humko ye chahiye, tabhi tumko hamare vote milenge. You will get our votes only if you do this for us. So there is better leveraging power, right? They will demand more dignity. They will demand access to land, to opportunities, to resources, that only if you give this to our community will you get our votes. So elections are always considered a great time for people to get all that they want from the political parties, the political class. But politics based on caste identity has always been unhealthy, because when you divide on the basis of caste, just like if you divide on the basis of religion, it leads to conflict, it leads to violence. That has always happened. Like political parties, for instance, again, I give you an example from Andhra Pradesh. They try to say reservation for a particular subsect. The other people who do not get the reservation, they'll feel aggrieved and they will take to violence, right? So the political parties also try to do divide and rule, just like the Britishers, and they create more problems, and they divide and rule on the basis of caste. Now, caste inequality. Okay. the proportion of lower caste below the poverty line, BPL means below the poverty line, is higher than the upper caste. That there are more poor so-called lower caste as compared to poor upper caste. Poor upper caste bhi rehte hain. There are poor Brahmins also, but the numbers are much less. In average economic status, which is measured by the monthly consumption expenditure, how much you consume and spend, the SCs and STs are worst off, because 45.8% of the ST population, this is from the NCERT textbook, of the ST, that is the Adivasi population in rural areas, is below the poverty line, which is almost 1 in 2 Adivasi in rural India is below the poverty line. Okay, the definition of poverty line is given below in blue. 36% of SC population in rural areas is below the poverty line, which is more than 1 in 3. Okay, this is the definition. Anyone who spends rupees 327 rupees or less per person per month, or 554 in urban areas. Finally, let's talk about the social and religious diversity of India. The census that is conducted every 10 years, it records the religion of every citizen. Obviously, you need to have a record, right? The scheduled castes, the Dalits, and the scheduled tribes, the Adivasis, are also counted in the census. In 2001, the SCs were 16.2% and STs were 8.2% of India's population. And together, SC, ST, and OBCs, they form 2/3 of India's population and 3/4 of Hindu population in India, right? And according to the 2001 census, which I mentioned early in the religion video, Hindus are 80% of the population, Muslims are 13%, Christians are some 2.3%, and Sikh are a little less than 2%. So that's broadly the division. With this, we come to the end of the gender, religion, and caste chapter. I hope I managed to explain it in great detail. Any doubts, feel free to ask. Please share this video with your friends. Subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon so that you get the notification, and we are in a position to help you to the maximum extent possible. Thank you very much for watching.